Is Wendy going to be here?
It's 6 o'clock. Wendy has said that she is intending to be here. We'll give it a couple minutes to see if she shows up, and then we'll get started.
That's what we do.
You ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
All right, 6:02. We'll go ahead and get started. Before we do actually dive into the agenda, something that Ed and I have overlooked for the past couple of months. At the end of January, our public works director, Drew Moderator, who was parks director, took it out in the private sector, and I have managed to fail to officially, as part of the park board business, recognize all the work that Drew did during his tenure in the city. He was 18 years. He was employed by the city and did a lot of very good work for the parks during that time. So officially in public, thanks Drew, and we certainly recognize and appreciate all the work that he did during his time as parks director. Moving on to approval of minutes. I actually have several rather nitpicky adjustments to make. All the way through, the votes were 5 yeas, 0 nays, and 3 absent. That should have been 4 absent. In the public participation section at the bottom of the first page, I believe it was the old school and not the historical society that requested the farmers market. Page 3 at the top, Somerville is misspelled instead of summer like the season. It should be summer like on their shirts. That's what it is. Let's see, page 3, Midwest Pool Management section. Third paragraph, I don't get to approve things by myself, unfortunately. I have a motion to approve. Page 4, the New Cameron Park sponsorship section, file should be field. second line, fourth word. And then page 4, Al made a motion to adjourn instead of she just made a motion. That's all of my nitpicking adjustments.
Sounds like it's all correct.
It is very well. Anyone else? Okay. With that, I look for a motion to approve. As amended. All right, motion and second to approve the minutes as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? One absent, motion carries, the minutes approved. Moving on to proposed participation.
Reading part 4 and attendees. My name is Michael Williams, and 40% to the park for some observations regarding I'm looking at the one particular property, which is the Cameron Aquatic Center. And I was at the Cameron Aquatic Center at the library, the Cameron Aquatic Center, and this is what Google presented to me, this page here. And since I'm thinking maybe we'll be launching a large, grand opening of the pool, I thought it probably be important for not just the community, but the world, abroad to know about it. So I looked at the page and I noticed that this largest picture, they have a picture of a tree. And that to me is kind of probably not, the big pool picture that we want to put up there. Something like this. And then I look down here at the hours, and it's 5 p.m. It's going to reopen at 6 p.m. That could be troubling. Then I go to and I click on the website. It takes me to the YMCA regional thing. I tried to find full information here, but I had difficulty, so I went back to the site, and then I went over to the aquatic center over here, clicked it, and I ended up with this page, which was helpful. A little light in photographs and information, but still there. And it did kind of look the pool was under construction, so Google was wrong. And I didn't correct them on that. But I noticed also that we didn't have any kind of grading, and no pin on the map here. So if you happen to be out of town. So then I went and I did a search center. Real events listing thing here where if people like the Cameron Aquatic Center on their Facebook, then they will get posts on upcoming events, and there's no tab for that. So and a bunch of other things. So I then did a search for pools and aquatic centers near me. So I got the same picture that I got before, and the same website, the same hours. But then I got all of this other stuff, other websites from other cities, but not the Cameron Facebook or city site. And I actually was doing this search at the library. There's 23 Cameron in the United States. So it could have well sent me to Cameron, Texas, where they have an aquatic center. In this case, that. So what I might suggest also, I did some other searches, some other tourists might use on a hot August day when they want to get their cars out of the RV and into a pool and find out the hospitality of Cameron. You might use TripAdvisor or Yelp. And I typed in pool or aquatic center near me, the pool, and the closest one was like Liberty and whatnot. And that's easily correctable. So what I'm suggesting is that perhaps we might be able to cure some of these situations and let people know that 5 to 6 minutes, that Cameron loves the community so much that they spent $5 million on a brand new pool. That's something to be proud of. And, also get the media and other people out here and have an active pool. I read some of the reviews of the pool, and hardly anybody there. I think about a year ago or something like that. We want to prevent that because you have fixed costs when running a pool, you know, staff, equipment, utilities. The more people that come in there, the more, you know, bond and makes it, you know, fun. So I would probably suggest on the city side that you might want to add the Facebook, your Instagram. And the Instagram, I put a photograph and there's a hashtag that would show up in that playlist. Also, in the YouTube playlist, make a YouTube playlist for the aquatic park, and then anybody that takes a photograph or TikTok, you can make a playlist specifically for the pool and not the soccer field, not the other thing. So you basically, and then you put a pin on here and add some more quick photographs since you got, you know, brand new pool, any other kind of information like that. When I worked in the city for 36 years doing special events, large, small, you know, all across the Western United States and some states, United States as well. Parties, things like that. When I go to the annual conference in California, they had a large trade show, and one of the tracks was education during the summertime for young kids. Because after kids get out of school in the spring, there's a summer slouch. And what they've discovered in the parks is if they add some educational content during the summertime, it doesn't have to be robust or anything like that, just to keep their kids active in various different types of things. Then there's not as much of a slump for the fall when they re-hitch into their school system. So they've been incorporating a lot of different types of educational things under the same, you know, requirements as an education system is. You don't have to worry about curriculum so much or rubrics and hitting everything, testing for preparing for a test. So it can be fun and entertaining. So these are the types of courses around the pool, you know, regular sports. I might suggest, and that would be like, you know, aquatic safety, CPR training, water safety, CPR, because you can do that in the pool. And then when you do open dive, I have a license to dive. Referee training, aquatic center, park maintenance. I don't want to get to disrepair in the future. So you have the, you know, the contractor provide you maintenance and you videotape that. You put that into a playlist for the park people, their maintenance pool, and stuff like that. So it would look something perhaps like edX, which is Harvard MIT's learning platform, which would be completely free to the community. And they just log in, you know, want to check up on, you could even offer underwater basket weaving if you wanted to, just to be funny. But you can have like CPR training. A lot of times when people learn something, they get refreshed every so often, get recertified or something like that with CPR. Got to tilt the head back and got to do this. Especially when you're panicked on the ground, and I've actually been in that situation. Panic, you forget everything. So it's a good idea to have something on your phone. Now, I believe in mobile. You know, some people right now use, when they work on their car, they lift up the hood, there'll be a tune-up right from their phone. So it's not necessarily in your bedroom, at the library, at a coffee shop, but it can be out in the park. So mobile education is probably where it's community-based, where you include the schools, you include the home, you include the services of the park and other city things. So what happened? Okay, so let me take a moment. If it doesn't load, I'll go to the next one. Oh, this might be like a lecture on how to do a body shape so that when you go from your diving board, learn how not to make any ripples, you know, and all they do is they learn these types of things. Beginning divers all the way to intermediate advanced divers, that's an example of what a course might be. Or even fun dives like cannonball or, you know, captain pirate dive. Then you can also, for education, entertainment. Okay. So you can see the coach is teaching that. This is something you might give to, you know, kids, like a puzzle, like, you know, like you say, okay, this physically possible? Right? So, you know, we find a janitor's bucket, you throw out the water, put the kids in it, we get a blower, and if that works, right? That's some of the stuff to keep physics and math, and is that a possibility? Is there such a thing as, you know, push and pull? So in some ways, the suggestions towards maximizing experiences, you develop update that presence, and not just update, but also reach out to all the other places that, you know, and calls. They don't show up at 6 p.m. right now to an empty pool. The problem with web development many times, well, developer develops, then the staff doesn't know how to update stuff. And so it's the last time it was done was 10 years ago. Whereas if you teach people how to do event, then you can basically have, you know, very little overhead, but you also have a course on, you know, maybe a couple more tricky things they like to do. Education programs for staff and community, which I briefly mentioned, skydiving, water safety, park maintenance, and pool maintenance. And then, of course, I said summer education programs, event promotions, welcome visitor experience. This is my background. I think it's running especially 25 years of research and optimization. Courses. It might be the pool, it might be the community center, it might be the soccer field, or maybe even, for instance, your skateboard skate park. I've done working in aspiration support. My contact information.
Question first off? As far as the web presence and searching stuff and all of that.
Yeah, and that's why I was encouraged to come down here, is because with mobile education, the people don't need to teach the course; they just need to be the mentor. You know, if they've if they've done a breaststroke in the past, they can watch the young person, you know, just watch the YouTube video at home or on poolside, and then they can then do the breaststroke, and then the staff person who knows how to swim or has the lifeguards certification can say, "Oh, well, you might want to," you know, a little bit of encouragement of. I like the word online distance remote learning because they do that in separate spaces, but with mobile, you can be in a creative space and you can be amongst people that mentor you. They don't necessarily have to be PhDs. People with prior experience. 50 years ago, they were diving champions or something like that. So, but you don't need staff for that so much. You're the champion. Aspiration, you're not necessarily.
My name's Kelly Brickhill, and we live right next to the new park that you guys are coming up with a name for. We're between the highway department and the park. So the park will be to the east of us and to the north of us. And we've been there for 25 years. And the water line that went in real slow, partly weather related. And there was many times we couldn't get in our driveway, leave, come, because they were parked there. And we talked to the contractor some, and they said they were willing to work with us. But then they cut across 8th Street, and that's our only in and out. And we didn't have any advance notice, and we were shut down for multiple hours. And we had a contractor coming, and we tried to encourage him if he thought he could to cut through Silver's veneer, but it had been defrosting and he got his vehicle stuck. And we were able to get him in, and my wife had an appointment, and she cut across the back of what was Barry's building supply. There was a little bit of grass there, and I came home and wasn't able to go home for an hour, just went and got a haircut, not a big deal. But we had already talked to the city manager, and my wife had made numerous phone calls and talked to the contractor about needing accessibility. And then they shut us down for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours without any advance notice. And due to the road conditions, dirt conditions, it really wasn't doable to cut through Silver veneer. And so we're trying to avoid that. And then we haven't had our mail delivered, I don't know, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, because they can't get in. Now I know that water line's in, so we shouldn't have that problem now. And then when they put the water line under, the end of our drive sunk. And then we've worked with them on it and called them, and they've got more gravel there. But a couple of people leaving our driveway have dropped a tire, and it sunk again now due to that. And then they replaced our mailbox, but it's not sufficiently built up, so you can't pull up to get your mail. And so that's an issue. And I know they'll work with us and stuff. Our road, 8th Street, it's dirt. There's like a little bit of gravel to one side. Every time we go in or out right now, because all the moisture, we're just slinging mud. And then the main thing, well, I was curious about your plans for a fence on the east side of our property and the north side of our property. But we have a daughter who's getting married, and she and my wife ganged up on me and decided to have it on our property. And I don't know, they've thrown numbers out there, 100, 150 people, but we can't have the road being asphalted or anything to block access when we're trying to have a wedding in May 21st. So I was just looking for some allies so that we can access our house and get into town, get out, and mostly I want to make sure that when we have family and friends coming to celebrate, that we can actually have the wedding on our property and facilitate people coming in and out, ingress, egress.
Well, I certainly apologize for all the inconvenience. It's not a good way to start meeting yours.
Yeah.
Steve, you get that, when I get that,
We are through the communication with her, and they're both such as super apologetic about all of it. Promise that they will communicate better moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not trying to call anyone out, but we talked to Herner and they apologized and they said that wouldn't happen again. And that's when we got shut down for like 5 hours. Yeah.
They're well aware of the issue.
you can send a message for me, but I'd like to see apologetic actions instead of words.
All right, well, thanks for your time. And if you, someone would give me a call sometime about the fence, just so we know what's going on. We got a pole barn 3-bay with a little extra, and it faces the east. We can't see it from our house. And so I'm concerned about the liability of someone coming over from the park. And, pole barn, you store all sorts of stuff, and I don't want someone getting hurt. I don't want to get hurt regardless. Then I also want to be sued if they get hurt. So we did put up a Ring camera, which is really weird to me. But anyway, we like to be good neighbors, and we're excited about. I'm a lot more excited than my wife is, but looking forward to fireworks and hot dogs, and anyway, just like it'll help.
Yeah. I would say we can do what we can. We can't keep everything will be perfect.
Oh yeah, I know there's going to be bumps, but
Be aware too that once the park is constructed, that will be the main in and out.
okay,
That'll just be like park access.
okay.
You
All right, sweet, thank you. Yeah.
Any other non-park name related public participation? No object, I think it would be cleaner to move the park name public participation down in conjunction with the actual park name business item. Is that agreeable to everyone out there? Does anyone have to leave immediately? Okay, with no objection, we will shift remaining public participation down to community park name under unfinished business. Okay, moving on, financial report. Carmen, I believe that's you.
Thank you for letting me come tonight and present a little bit of information. So this first page on the screen, this is a breakdown worksheet that we have developed for everyone's benefit, and most importantly, your benefit, to know where we are at or what we expect the ending balances to be in the pool project. So the top part of the page, the 6.5 million, that was the funds available for the aquatic facility. And we have summarized it down to the total project cost by Carruthers. And then by the changes that we know, the additional expenses that we know of per date, the change orders have been minimal. And Lamprey Nearson's, that's your engineering architect contract, and that's being paid out. And then the last item, aquatic facility, those are direct payments that we think that we will have to purchase in order to open the pool. And that amount of 87,398 is open to change. You know, it will probably grow as we get more items, but that's where we're at now. And we do have room at $1.4 million to make some additional purchases if needed. And then we have a similar sheet for the park facility. And hey, Steve, where's my down here? Where is it? I didn't see where it clicked. Okay, down there. Okay. So with the park, that estimated amount at the top, 5.8 million, we do not know what the exact amount of construction funds will be. So that's just a comparable number that we put out there to use. There again, the full amount of the contracts, any changes. And this gets more in depth due to you have your LWCF grants, those expenditures and reimbursements. But there we have, as of right now, if everything were to work perfectly, we would expect to have $150,000 left over in park funds available to use. And this is the park direct purchase items. That is just a rough estimate. It could be more, it could be less, but you know, we're just looking forward to you know, having bleachers, trash cans, and those sort of things. I do know that Larry with Vireo is going to start processing the grant reimbursements. As those are coming up, I think here in the next 45 days, he'll be able to start submitting for quarterly reimbursements on the first project, since that was mostly mass grading. So that will be coming in thirds, and he thinks he'll have most of that project and most of that grant paperwork completed and filed by the end of the fiscal year of September 30. So on March 14th, city staff went through a Standard & Poor's rating call. And it's a hour-long discussion over the telephone with Standard & Poor's over the finances, the projects of the citywide. And the unofficial report is favorable. We do not have the official rating of the city yet, but we do believe that it will be very similar to what it has been in the past. They've been very complimentary of our work, but they haven't prepared the final report yet. So that's good in our favor. We do not know what the interest rates will be on this park project, but the pool project was at 2.5% to 3%. Our market environment is slightly higher now, so I would expect these rates to be slightly higher also. But all in process, and funds would still be available probably by the end of April. The ordinance for the park project went before the first reading of council on Monday. So we'll have the second reading in April the 4th. And then that way funds would be available after it goes to market at the middle of April. So I do know that the bonds will be are working with the debt funds will be through UMB Bank out of, I think it'll probably be Kansas City. So wherever that is. The other financial reports, very standard. We're just proceeding along with, no, he didn't put that part in there. Okay. Okay. Is going along as a normal year. And that's all I have. You have any questions? And we'll present, if there's new information or more suggestions for costs, we'll adjust these and get you that information as time goes on.
On that 900,000, is that for the future projects?
That, yes.
That is the 2021, the project associated with the 2021 WCF grant year on restaurants and the other. I need to go back and verify whether the entirety of the items included in the 900 were actually included in the grant proposal. If possible, Steve, do you know that offhand? I believe it is. I think everything that they did to go into the 900 is part of the grant. I believe that's okay.
That's what it kind of works. That's what it should be.
But that includes the year-round restrooms, parking system, the gaming playground, shelters, picnic areas. Steve, am I remembering that correctly?
I believe so, yes. Okay, thank you.
All right, unfinished business, on to the farmer's market. You want to go through this?
Yeah, just briefly, I met with our city attorney. I'll jump to the next page here, regarding this for the farmers market and kind of customizing, tailoring an agreement that could go out for farmers markets and it was basically a cost recovery for the farmers market is what they were looking for, or a way to offset the cost of reserving the park and using the park for their weekly farmers market. I don't know, they were here last meeting and asked if we could potentially kind of rework the agreement that we have for farmers market. So that's kind of what this page here is. You see the fee reduction options. Basically, it's just it would completely offset their costs if they did these tasks. Some of the tasks were actually in the contract already, but I added it just as more of a way to pay for their fees to use the park. That being said, this board spent several years trying to get to a point where there was an agreement, and that's why I switched to just McCorkle Park and just farmers markets, because I don't want to switch it to where it's all inclusive for every other event and every other park. Just because there's a reason why this agreement was made, because of so many times in the past everybody would come to a park board meeting and ask for the fees to be waived, whether it be a baseball, softball tournament or a car show, whatever it may be. They were always waiving the fees, and we needed to figure out a way to recover some of the cost associated with these events. And so that's why it was created. But from the direction of the city manager, and working with our city attorney, this is kind of the suggestions that was put in place. Now, that would require a vote from park board to establish a secondary farmers market contract, or we could table it and we could revisit it next meeting. I know that they start farmers markets, I believe, early May. So, I mean, there's probably multiple ways to look at it, but I'm not really one to I shouldn't say play favorites, but I feel like if we set a precedence that farmers markets can use the park for free with just doing these minimal tasks, then what's going to change for the next people that want to use it for a wine walk or a whatever, you know? So
that was the first thing that stood out to me with the McCorkle Park Farmers Market use application, is that was something that I was adamant about the last meeting. Is I don't want to be making exceptions to the rules for any group, because at some point you have to draw a line and say this group is more important than that group. And that's something that I want to stay away from if at all possible. So any updates that get made, I would like to see across the board available for everybody, for every type of event. And I called and talked through this with Steve the other day. And as we were talking through it, if you go to page 4 on Corporal Park Farmers Market use agreement, reading through the rules that were already in the existing special event use application. The 7th bullet down basically says that everything, like a requirement of the activity at the park, is that everything needs to be cleaned up, all litter from around the park, the restrooms, the parking areas. Item number 8 basically says that if the trash cans were empty at the start, they need to be empty at the finish. If they were full at the start, they can be full at the finish. Item number 13, and this is something that, FYI, is anybody from the old school here? So the FYI for you guys, something that's in there, it says a copy of the list of all vendors, hired companies, suppliers, etc. in the park shall be submitted to the city no less than 3 business days prior to the event start date and time. So these are things that, as we sat here last meeting, I don't know that I had ever actually read this application in detail. But as I read through it, all these things came up. Then one last one that I would point out, the second to last item says garage sales and flea markets are not permitted in parks. It doesn't say farmers markets. It's my knee-jerk reaction is a farmers market is dangerously close to a flea market. I'm not compelled to say we need to include farmers markets under that. I'm just pointing it out so people knew that was there. So with that, my thoughts are we just continue with the existing park special use application that we have and move forward with that. Any other thoughts or discussions? I have all those things highlighted if somebody wants to read through those. Well, number one, I would rather see us not make it a special application for anyone. If we modify anything, it needs to be across the board for everybody. But then number two, going through like the cleaning up the trash, picking up the litter, cleaning up the restrooms, all of that stuff is in the existing agreement. And it's my understanding that last year the fees were waived, is that correct? And I know that I wasn't a part of that, and I have no problem with that was done, and I don't know if we can do that, continue going forward.
Well, I can tell you, Steve mentioned that we went through this, God knows how long, trying to come up with something that was equitable. Personally, I think a lot of us didn't even want to have a application, but we were kind of forced into doing it, for many reasons, not just because of money, but yeah, it was many reasons. So I agree with, man, if we start making exceptions, then we just open a can of worms. I mean, every one of them are good reasons to do it. But we have to burn out having it involved. But sure, we'll have to have remember some come in.
Well, our insurance provider, some of it's driven by our insurance as well, as far as. Yeah, at least a year.
So I would just think exceptions, because everyone's going to be very started.
As soon as we make one exception, then
We either get rid of it completely or we don't make exceptions.
Do these people that do the farmer's market, do they have to have a business license? Many years ago, the Pride Committee tried to do a farmer's market. And it was in the parking lot, but is now Tuck Creek. And they had to buy a business license. So I didn't know.
According to Missouri statute, only sell farm produce or farm goods, you're not required by state farm business license. So if it's only thing off their farm, they don't need a business license. If they're making and selling craft items, some of these items, they do have to have a business license.
And I'm going to disagree with you based off a lot of other communities have to go by based on whatever insurance company and stuff. So I imagine this is something even kids that could be a farmer's market.
Oh, our fees don't touch those kind of fees even close.
We do have our own insurance too, and we do make the city's additional insurance on.
anything else to add to the table?
Has the insurance company changed any rules or regulations before?
Not that I'm aware of on this. And that's as far as naming the city as a part of the insurance, that's part of this requirement as well. So it's just, unfortunately, that's kind of the world we live in now. If we're gonna, there's enough liability risk and just wear and tear on parks when you have events that, if you don't, between the grass and all the excess traffic, and I mean, all that stuff adds up. Seed alone, we probably spent $3,000 last year just reseeding McCorkle Park, and you can't really tell. So, I mean, there's just those costs that are associated with keeping up. Yeah. So it's not like we're trying to make money. We're just trying to recoup the cost of having the band performances and the farmers markets and the, you know, all the different events that happen in the park. So well, I mean, you're free to use it. I mean, it's open to the public, but if you're having an event in the park, then you have to follow these rules.
I mean, it's just the difference between open public use and an organized event. Like they were saying, I think every part of it does come from the insurance liability and all of that. And I've seen enough litigation where the insurer doesn't necessarily want to sue, but the insurance company does. And, you know, so I'm not gonna sit here and suggest that if somebody got hurt, you guys would sue the city or something like that. I don't think that's the case. But
We're there 4 hours.
what's that?
We're there 4 hours in one section. The northwest section.
Is there any other thoughts on the topic?
I don't think we should make such a sort of like this, that we spend so much time trying to get away from this and out. But I wish there was a way to mitigate this. And especially for somebody else, it's driving in the park. If there's something I can do that way, like the farmer's market.
The recurring weekly event as opposed to a one-time.
Right, as opposed to just someone having a white box, having an event, as opposed to someone.
And to that point, the way it's written out is there is a required security deposit. And essentially there would be one security deposit for the full season opposed to.
What's unfortunate is we all know.
When does it start?
May 26th.
Mentioned wine, this is perfect. But as a board, we have an obligation to the city as far as getting covered with insurance. It's the requirement that it's choice. My opinion, I mean, like I said, I gave the even the date that's the entire year that we did it. And I think that's good.
If I had my choice, it would certainly be let's do it, there wouldn't be any.
We could, it doesn't start till May 21st, so we could always table this and reach back out and to our attorney again and try to get some more clarification about, you know, something reoccurring versus a farmer's market. I mean, we don't necessarily have to there is enough time before your farmer's market starts. We'd have to get it in the April meeting, but that still gives you guys a month to, right? More or less. Other communities typically do the use agreement that's currently, right, that came from mostly from another community.
Like I said, the Baker and Lawson does not charge at all for their farmers market. And they're held on city property. Lathrop's actually right in the middle of town, down the middle of the street, Main Street.
Well, right, it's not in
They
the
close
park.
that block off,
It's not in the park though, it's in the street.
but Blossom is in the brand new, where the new splash park is and everything. In the parking lot.
Parking lot of the park.
Yes.
Here's a suggestion that I gave the city manager, that what if we close Cherry Street from 3rd to 4th? There's plenty of shade on that street, hard surface, keeps everybody out of the park other than foot traffic. We could close that every week. I know, I mean, it involved the street department and a road closure agreement, but it would leave the parks essentially out of it. Because then your people could still use the park, but just no vendors in the park. Does that make sense? That's an option that could happen.
If we review something like that, the possibility would basically only have 3 people to discuss it with.
Right,
As far as,
versus,
hey, we're gonna close the street down for 2 hours.
Versus-
Saturday.
right, versus a whole
Make sure
board.
they- But they've got how to use from the back,
Mhm.
so there may not
And-
be this freaking carry, so that would be a possibility.
Well, and really that Cherry Street, it has all the parking plus, I don't know if it'd be a problem as far as police and EMS and things like that, but I doubt it no longer than it'd be. Plus it keeps all your vendors on hard surface, maybe actually easier for them to get in and out. And I know as the morning, you'll be in the shade there all morning long because of the trees from the park. It might actually be a better. Yeah, over in there. Right. So, that would be my recommendation. That way parks don't have to change their policies. You would just have to fill out a road closure agreement.
I would bet you that's one of the reasons like that.
That way it's cool. You're still in the shade. People, if they want to congregate in the park, that's fine. But as far as the event goes, it wouldn't be setting up in the park. So it could still, does that make sense?
Steve, is there a way, can you contact like from Boston, see if that's why they do it or how they do that? Should you know?
I could.
That'd be curious. Curious,
Right. Right.
If the police department didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Then
Okay. Yeah.
it'd be good to know.
Yeah, it'd be good to know. Right.
So I think at this point, we're gonna have to decline to make any changes to our special use agreement. Steve, if you would continue to see if there is a universal, and any update can be made across the board, not specific to one organization or type of event or park or anything like that. Like I said last meeting, I'm still of the same opinion. If there's a way that we can improve the policy, I want to do it. I will be vocally against anything that it makes a specific policy just for one group for a type of event. I said, it's not me that approves or disapproves, but I will certainly speak about it. All right, on to the fun one. Reopening the mindful zone participation on park day.
Hi, I'm Connie Lintner. I'm here representing the Cameron Historical Society. We're here in support of the Somerville name. We're happy to see that it's going to be a part of the park name. And we're also here to see your historic vote go down tonight on what name you end up with. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? So, this morning I pulled up traffic zone and maker plan.
Which one?
Polls on the park name. I printed those off this morning and sent them out to everybody on the board. Overwhelmingly, if we eliminate the Somerville Park option from the top of the Facebook vote, overwhelmingly the polls both showed a preference for Cameron Community Park and Sports Complex at Old Somerville. I would point out that Drift Hill's got several votes in the citizen observer poll.
All done by the county.
Actually, I just wanted to see if I could continue to vote for that. It was going to. So, I guess we had voted on the previous meeting to include Allen Somerville at the end of the park name as opposed to for the name of the park itself, to keep flexibility for a future park to potentially sell naming rights of the park. It's not in the immediate plans right now, but something that could become so in the future. I don't want to see a park name have someone take it out of the name at some point in the future. So, does anybody feel that we need to revisit that?
You're comfortable with having the actual Somerville peer group? I mean, I know you guys want to Somerville as the name, but we would have preferred that, however. Our general idea is that the long complex name that the park will have, the citizens will determine what they want to call it. And more than likely, the obvious short name is going to be Somerville. Just like people say the pool park or recreation park.
Sure. I have a question just to get on the sign, so I was talking to Steve last bill. I don't remember on the cost of the sign, buying the sign itself. If we name a park with
Lots of letters.
9 names, are we paying for like per kind of thing, or is it how big the sign is, just the size of the sign?
That depends on the type of sign. If it's
I mean, how big of the
something
sign do we have to have that my name?
Billboard.
Billboard from our.
So the original, the sign itself, I believe, actually got taken out of the repackage. So that means readdress. So essentially, we need to redesign the sign. So the original sign was, it had protruding individual letters. So we were going to be paying by the letter on that concept. If it's something with graphics embedded in the sign, then it would just be a single cost across the board. And circling back a couple of years to the master plan, one of the recommendations was universal park signs across the city as opposed to mismatch of different types of signs on the parks. So this could potentially be the opportunity to do exactly that and incorporate the new sign at the new park with new signs in all the parks. So the short answer is it depends.
Depends on the sign, because I agree, I mean, I agree with Somerville, I also agree with parks and sports complex, and I agree with all of it, and then I was thinking, that's a big sign.
Yeah, and I don't think that the cost per letter or the size of the sign itself is low. I want a big sign, whether it's on a sign.
I realized I was calling last meeting, in the line of 2 months was January meeting of the previous meeting before that. We started discussing these names. And I've actually talked to a lot of people, and I'm even associated with maybe folks that are here that have said, why don't you just name Somerville Park? Short, simple, for the same reason the county said it's going to end up being Somerville Park anyway. Still have that community park and sports complex. You guys know the other entrance, something. With that particular corner, just mark it as Somerville Park, refer to it as Somerville Park. And just keep it short and sweet.
The corner with Somerville.
Or at least on that entrance area, close to that south part of the park.
There's only going to be one entrance.
Right, but it's still going to go south side.
No, that'll be the exact opposite corner.
Okay. Well, either way, I'm just telling you, it's keeping it simple, because everything we have in the town goes to is.
I may not have a different view of that, and it may not be popular, but when this originally started, Somerville was brought up in the history of the entire PowerPoint. I know you saw the originals, probably through Michelle Wells, Becky, whoever. But after doing a lot of the research, I've been planning on including it in the name. But I look at it more as Cameron is what succeeded, and Somerville is not. You know, so I look at it as Cameron might have a name in this park. Is my thoughts on it. So. I think it's pretty far, and I think I really do recognizing that and everything, but like I said, I think Cameron was a success after Somerville. Yeah. Interesting.
We're not talking about just changing the name of the aquatic center, are we? Just the park itself.
Just the new park.
Yeah, because you'll get dinged if you don't mention pool or anything on it, you know.
Yeah, no, it's just
Yeah.
where the ball field.
I was gonna say one thing though, I had a little bit of weird kind of a take on this soccer complex. And if you just call it a sports complex, because you have your skateboard park, you have your basketball, you have your soccer, and you perhaps play football on the field as well. That's a different issue.
All the other things came well after the soccer. When it was created, it was
So we're only talking about the park.
And part of the cost on making the sign and all that. Word, all those words, didn't creep in the mind.
I never spending this much money on a bar, the sign is that money.
They on an extra day, that could be an expensive sign, but that word.
No, like my personal opinion on Somerville Park versus such and such park at Somerville. Just, if I were to come in without knowing anything about it, I would see adult Somerville and recognize that is a place that's here. I wouldn't necessarily think that was Somerville Park. I never go to Platte Valley Park and think I wonder what the history of Platte Valley is. I never go to the Heritage Park and think I wonder what heritage they're talking about. So in my mind, adult Somerville actually calls more attention to Somerville the place as opposed to just the generic name that we came up with. And that being said, I know that was part of the long ago, early on in discussion about park names, there was talk of we need to put in a name. I have done a lot of searching for other towns' parks, and you will not find a town that has their name in the park. It's almost universally not the case. So the same can be said about sports complex. I will guarantee you, if you search for baseball fields, it'll show up when we submit it to Google. When Google Maps points out there, they can find it. So I don't think that we necessarily need a sports complex. If we wanted to shorten it, that would be my first place to shorten it. And then Drift Hills is certainly shorter.
Going off of that, I agree with what Chris said, a lot of parks in other towns, they don't have the town's name in it, which is absolutely true. I mean, it's Heritage Park or it's
Lions Park and also.
Yeah, a lot of like park you know, there's, so now will say, someone will say, you know, Somerville Sports Complex, or Heritage Park Sports Complex, things like that. But most of them don't have the town's name either. And if you look at none of our other parks in town, say anything about camp. It's Red Park, it's Beaver Park, it's Purple Park.
Cameron doesn't have one park, it has many parks.
What's that?
Cameron doesn't have one park, it has many parks.
Right. But those communities are like, different, so. I don't know. That's just. And a few other people. That doesn't work.
We can't use what we have. I feel like we're making history now, what's going on. With all, you know, the whole community right now, so. Very important community. Yeah.
Well, we took out the sports complex, and sports complex, and community park, that whole time. So That's even towards that. I don't think it-
That motion, all of,
That's it.
Is that what it is?
We're still discussing all of that.
on citizens representing all over. The distribution on roundabouts is very similar to the distribution on.
Still big, and that's what-
Which one, the Citizen Observer or the Facebook?
I agree, people are not gonna say, let's go to Camden Community Park. I would be surprised if it's called anything but the new park for quite some time. Unless you're- So. Does somebody want to make a motion for a single name, or shall we do everybody write down, rank your choices and tally them all up? This is just how my okay. All right.
It's up to you. I make a motion that we name Cameron Community Park as the start. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Jeremy?
When you said you carry, motion.
I remind everybody to Robbie's point just now, if reference for different names, you can say we don't know and make a motion on it.
For adding another one.
No, there's a motion and a second for to name the park, Cameron Community Park, and Adams Lake.
We have to go on this.
It's already been said, this is going to see. So, like I said, just a reminder to have different preference, no problem. Make it different. So, all in favor, please make sure that you're all opposed. Okay. 6 in favor, all opposed. 2 opposed. Motion carries, mark as a name. All right.
Did you get the name? Robbie voted no and Al voted no. I don't know if you necessarily need. Just, did you get the name?
Moving on to new business. The community park change order number 5.
I wish it wasn't called a change order because it's really, I mean, it came to me as a change order from Herner. But yeah,
I would still say thanks to the historical society.
Absolutely.
Especially the first presentation you guys ever gave, 3 years ago.
Thank you.
I would also say it was your involvement and suggestions that led to Adams Sawmill being there at all. That didn't come from us.
Of all the questions we can ask the historical society, the location of Somerville is probably one of the most topical. And discussions and arguments about where it was are also very topical. So to have it included in there and gives life to the location where it actually wasn't something that's been discussed. I've lived here since 1970, and it has been discussed since I moved. So having it included. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, proceed with the change order for the Cameron Community Park at Sunday.
It has a name. Okay, essentially this was, and you guys have already approved it, so this is more informational. It's for the lighting for the soccer fields is this change order. It was, and I forget which meeting, I wasn't at the meeting, you guys voted on it, but it was to add lighting for the soccer field. So this is putting another transformer close to the maintenance building so they don't have to pull wire so far, and then getting wire so we can energize the lights at the soccer fields. So,
questions, comments, discussions? Thank you, Steve. Moving on, Conex pricing.
okay, this sheet is kind of my initial thoughts on the structuring of the pool passes. For one, I'd like to kind of get away from the family pass. Not that we won't have, this is a family pass, but I don't want to, without having to put a whole definition of what family is these days, and this kind of cleans it up without have to do all that. So yeah. So essentially your first four group, and the pricing's on the next page, but your first four, your family could be that. If you have five, you just for an additional $60 a person. Now, I know I didn't send that out initially that way, but that's up to 8 could be your family. And that could include, this way it could include like your babysitter or somebody not necessarily in your family, but that you're going to pay for to get into the, yeah, you can include that. So that was just kind of my thought on that. And actually, we won't use this form because we have a different, since I created this, we hired another organization we'll speak to later, access granted. These are the prices that we looked around at several different places, talked to Midwest Pool Management, looked at Chillicothe, looked at other area pools, and kind of tried to make a fair price that reflects the new aquatic center. So $9 for an adult, anybody over 18, $10 for non-residents, $6 for yes, yeah. Well, and really, when people go to order these, it'll all be online, and it'll kind of depend on where they live and things like that. It'll just automatically assign. But yeah, I'll switch that around when we put this out to be seen by the public. Non-resident student versus resident students, 5 and 6. Pre-K is $1 to get in. Senior citizens, $5. The group pass for 4 is $250. Then from 5 to 8 additional to your group, $60 per person after that. An individual pass for Cameron resident, $100. Individual pass for non-resident to $125. And your pool rental stuff is on the next slide here. I'll jump to the next slide. And this was a thought, kind of speaking with Chrissy and Chad from Midwest Pool. With our new pool, with the zero depth entry on Plan A side, where there's the floatables and zero depth and splash ground type features, if you wanted to just have a little kid pool party, you could just rent that side. It'd be less staffing for them. And you can see it'd be $92 just to pay the guards and the manager and everybody for that event. So I figured $200 per hour. It seems to be a pretty fair amount. If you wanted the B side, it's the same thing. Just if you had older, high school kids or whatever, didn't want to mess with the small, you just rent the deeper water side, and for $400 you can get the whole thing.
One question I have on this is there, I guess I don't know what the target age range is on the 8-plan side. Is there an option or a scenario of, I would say, an 8.5 plan that includes the 8-plan plus the slide, just without diving more into it?
I'd have to talk to Chrissy about as far as like where the guard location is, and yeah, because I mean, you know, I know you'd have to have somebody at the top of the slide and, yeah, and I'm sure we could do that. I just don't know.
That seems, just looking at this, that seems like a scenario that will react.
Yeah, well, you're right. Maybe we, you know, I don't know. I will work that in there. I just don't know what maybe we say $250 for the A plan plus the slide. I don't know. You know, I'm not sure without getting like how many, I guess it'd probably be 2 more additional guards. But I'm sure you're right. I feel like, you know, you get kids that, you know, that in between age where they might not want to go off the boards and stuff, but want to go down the slide. So. Right. So, yeah, right. And my thought was, you know, you had kids that were little kids that wanted to play in that splash ground and stuff without having a parent go down the slide with them. They're not going to want to go down the slides for the little kids, but.
Yeah, that was the only thing I saw, is that there's a convenient, quick way to incorporate the slide.
Yeah, well, I will cater that if you guys are okay with like a $250 price tag ish. Yeah, okay. I just want to get this approved tonight so I know we're already getting a lot of phone calls at City Hall about people wanting to get passes and get going, and the quicker I can get approval on these dollar figures, the quicker I can get it on the website and get it, just kind of start marketing it. So
where these price points compare with 2019?
They're more. I honestly didn't.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. So
we discussed for years. We're like way below anybody else. Yeah.
And we didn't want to raise the. Right. I mean, we were selling a very dilapidated pool, and you know, yeah, we were well under what a lot of the other pools were charging. But now I think this puts us back up to like Chillicothe and what they price at. So I feel like it's a very comparable pool compared to Chile. So
one thing that I know has been brought up quite a bit is concern about basically people using the pool as a babysitter. And would potentially a way to address that be to reduce the cost of the entry and make it easier for people to, you know, right now they can say, well, I'm not going to pay $9 for myself to go in there and watch them. I'm going to drop it off. That could be a good thing. Somebody who's not going to get in the pool.
well, we can add a non-swimmer rate. I just need to. I feel like that's a little.
I feel like that would encourage parents to stay as opposed to drop off the kids.
Right. What was Chillicothe's? 3. I mean, we can do that. If that's a rate you guys think is fair, we can definitely do that. Well, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, right. Right. I know Midwest Pool's going to be like, well, who's going to police that? If, you know, that's the question I'm going to get from them is, okay, someone pays $3 to get in as a, you know, non-swimmer, but next thing you know, they're swimming, you know, what? No, that's if little kids with swim test kind of thing, they'll get bans, but yeah, adults won't get bans. Yeah. I mean, we can do whatever you guys feel fit on. All right. I know. Right. Okay. Well, we'll set it at $3 and then go from there.
The only rate, the combined rate, kind of it's based on, they're doing per hour, on either A or B. You look at the margin, you got 108, which is A and B, but you got 216 difference. But I mean, it's 50. Yeah, I'm thinking 3 even, just
325.
because that's, you know, you still got, you still have the same margin for 2 hours. So
Right.
it's a pretty big difference in the margin.
Well,
And,
We-
I mean, part of the margin, I'm
I'm
assuming
assuming
that was
that's what
for maintenance of everything, for almost all the general operating costs. So
I mean, we,
I can see having more margin for more uses, or use of more of the pool, but I agree, I don't know that it needs to be double.
what's a fair number? 350, 300? You guys tell me. I can set it whatever.
But it's taking it to $400
Per hour.
to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Might have more people doing it, like, if you did 625 or something, using the whole thing, you still got. Of course, the other issue is, you know, in regards to work, is they want the whole time.
I mean, that's,
So that would. For 2 hours or for 1 hour? 2 hours. So I have this.
why don't we just go 300 then?
300 for the whole thing works.
Especially now, it's just, send people away, to,
Do we,
the Jones and Ashton, oh, you put the pool, now you're questioning what happened.
based on that, do we need to, the 150 on the half?
You guys want to? We can.
Did you, for this, did you compare this with other pools, or was this just based on the?
I used some of Chillicothe's. I looked through some of that. I knew we were going to be a little bit more, but I also don't think that's 2022's. Is that 2021? I just figure with inflation and I just threw 200 out there basically and said, I think that's a fair number, but we can definitely, and knowing that we were going to discuss it and adjust as needed. That's what it's going to cost to staff it. No, that's what Midwest Pool is going to pay the guards, and that's what's going to cost out of the salary. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm going to suggest 175 for a half pool and 300 for a full pool.
Are we giving the hour or?
I mean, that's the cost per hour to us.
I mean, if you want it for 2 hours, you just rent it for 2 hours. I mean, that's.
I think that the 1 hour is acceptable. We went to a pool party in the annual pool down in South. Yeah, those little kids, they don't swim that long, we get tired. They want to go to the Cape.
So
Yeah, I would suggest 175 to 300. And that'd be per hour. Yeah, 12 hours.
Yeah. We know we're not going to use, it's labor, but they do that.
We haven't even explored that yet, and I think year one, and we don't really have the staff to, our staff compared to Chillicothe's park staff is not even a comparative. I'm really in Lanny. I mean, and I'm part-time. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a great idea. All those things are a great idea. I just don't know, we're not quite ready yet.
This 90 hours an hour, does that include staffing, like in the concession stand and all of that?
I would assume so. I can check back with Christy. That's what she told me. It was 92, but she might have just been, I also don't know. Pool parties do. I was going to say in the past, I don't think people usually, that's the time you're allowed to bring in outside food. So I don't know. And that's kind of the advantage of having a pool party. You can bring your own, one of the advantages, bring in your own food. Right.
I would assume that all of the pool deck, the chairs, the shade structure, the table, all that would be included regardless of.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, it would just be a matter of not being, just for the staffing purposes, not have to need so many guards. You could use chairs throughout the whole facility. I would, as long as your kids didn't, little kid didn't get in the deep water or whatever.
That's probably close to what it's I can't remember. But if it was close to $200, when you got like 2 party rooms, you could have up to like 50 guests, like maybe or something. They went in and
We were in the,
I just looked it up.
I did have one other question. We go back to please, Steve, just for clarification, group pass 5 to 8 people, $60 Cameron residents, that's $60 additional dollars
per person, yes, up to 8. Yeah, I think when I sent that out to the park board originally, I didn't put per person. Chris brought it to my attention, so I'm like, a really good deal for the $60 for 4 more people. But now it's per person. And I know we've had complaints in the past about not having a senior citizen discount, so we worked that in. Can you think of anything additionally that, other than the $3 for the non-swimmer, that somebody might find? I know somebody brought up veteran type discount. We could maybe do. I mean, we could add that.
Type of thing, including the harder it is for people taking the money to.
Well, yes and no. With this, we'll get to the software part of it, but once they're entered into the system, especially if they're a pass holder, it'll just be a matter of scanning it. And so it shouldn't, every time they scan their card to get in, it'll know what to charge them and, well, or all of that. So, I mean, everybody going in is gonna, yeah, right.
On those rates, is that daily, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. All day from one day. Yep.
Question, comment, Mike?
I think the way to know that is better is the driver's license, we put better in on them, and we have to look at their use that. So that would be a good surefire way to immediately know that they are, to go along with what you're saying. If that's something you want to do, I just want to.
That's good. The group pass, is that only for adults?
No, it's didn't I think we just opted to, it's for, I need to just remove the Cameron residents. It's anybody can get the same rate though. It's going to cost the same whether you're right. I mean, that's why we didn't do it, because initially I was going to set a price point for both resident and non-resident, but I figured the vast majority of these people are going to be residents, and even if not, it's going to be the same rate. I mean, it's just family pass or group passes, right? No.
Hopefully that's the.
There is a cap on the amount of people that can use the pool. There's a certain maximum capacity they'll have to follow. Obviously, we haven't had to deal with that since I've been around, but it might be different now. But it'll be this year. Well, it was a free swim too, wasn't it? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's hopefully we will be tracking capacity and all of that. But I hope we don't have an issue where a pass holder can't get in because we're already at capacity, but there's no guarantee on that one. Mm-hmm. Let's just cross that bridge when we come to it.
Are you getting the price condition?
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we move forward with these rates as presented with the amendments to adjust the half pool hourly rental rate to $175 per hour, the full pool rental rate to $300 per hour, and include veterans with the secret price category. And add an non-swimmer category.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Mm-hmm.
Access granted.
Okay, met with this company, let's see, 2 weeks ago, Carmen, something like that. Is that last week? Trying to figure out a good way to track attendance and gate and all of, we were looking at, okay, how are we going to take money? We looked at Square Up, and we looked at all kinds of different ways to go about doing it. Found this company that kind of works as a Square Up. They'll take your credit card or whatever for payments, and you can. So it'll take care of that side of it, the financial side of it too. They'll deposit money into our account whenever we ask for it, or that'll all be set up. But basically, it'll allow people to go on this website, sign up for their group passes, put all the information in there for all your family members, upload pictures, take care of the whole thing. Then when we'll still have a couple days at the pool where they can come get their passes, or we can issue passes. Midwest Pool will work with this company too to issue passes, either individual or group. Some cool features with that. I signed all of you up to be observers. So you go on there, you can look and see what our daily attendance, weekly attendance, who's coming in, who's going out, all of that. Look at the financials, every component of it. We'll have a scanner at the front desk, and we'll also have one at concessions. If you're a parent or whoever, you can buy you can actually add money onto your pass for like concession items as well. So say you have a kid going to the pool, instead of getting them cash, you can put, $20 on their card, say this is your concessions for the week, or however that needs to look. But that way there's not as much cash transactions and things like that. We'll still have cash transactions and all of that, but I feel like nowadays it might be a lot easier for a parent just to put money on a card, kind of like the school does the lunch cards, or whatever. So scanner at the concessions as well, and each item will be allocated for, like a can of Coke is this much money with this much tax, and that way it works across the board. So it'll track people coming in, it'll track sales of concessions, all of that. So the price, we opted to go with and it kind of shows you what the process of And we already have the website to use. Until I had the amounts we needed to plug in for the application, we haven't made it public yet. But yeah, basically what I sent you in the email is just access to yeah, well, and there's nothing really to look at now, but once the pool gets rolling, every day you can be like, okay, we had 400, whatever it is, and you can break it down by per hour, per day, per week. You can look at high points, low points, all of that.
So you've got the seasonal, annual, I assume we did a seasonal plan.
We did the annual plan just because it'll store all that information from season to season. And that way, if next year, say you bought a pass last year and you just want to re-up it the next year, all that information will be stored on there.
But it says right here in the seasonal plan, it does that.
Well, there is I can't remember the reason where we, yeah, there was a benefit. I just get it right off the, right.
But my question was, is that the total cost?
That's
also a credit card processing fee that is taken out of
there is a processing fee that will work into the price of. We don't pay it. It's just if you're a member or want to buy your passes, they'll hit you with I forget it's a 2-point something.
So that's a fee that gets passed on to the user as opposed to a fee.
Basically, yes. That's some of the reason why our rates are a little bit higher to cover some of those costs too. But anyway, it's all worked into the agreement with them. For $429 or $20 a year, I figured it was worth all of that just to have the tracking and the ease of purchasing pool passes. It takes, there isn't really staff here at City Hall that's devoted to working on pool pass stuff. So, we just don't have the staff to do those type of things. So I figured this way, this company will take care of selling all the passes, and between them and Midwest Pool, it'll be a good way to sell the passes and track. No, there'll be a pickup day, either that or they're like the first day of the pool season. Yeah, it'll be there ready to go. Yeah, it'll be that we did not. That's another additional cost that I didn't put all the. We bought. There's some hardware that was included in the plastic passes and a few of those things, but it's all pretty minor.
Yeah, I do really like having the e-pass option.
Yeah.
In today's society, we have to have something.
Right.
So one thing I would say, if you would, send it there, I'm sure is just double check the difference between the plan and season plan. $80 this weekend.
Right.
Like I said, that's not a lot of money, so if there is a difference,
Yeah. Without looking back, I can't remember why we opted to go annual, but I think it was just a matter of, I think they would store all the information, but we would have to download it ourselves if we wanted to access it during the off season. Yeah, so that's right, that unless we were to download it, right. I figure for the $80 more additionally a year, having access to that year round. For one, if it's off season, we want to go in and realize, hey, we needed to tweak this as far as like concession sales or whatever. Right, exactly. We can access it year round. So I just figured it was.
all right, anything else on access granted?
Scoreboards. Well, I know Chris and Matt have already done a lot of the work on this, but we need to get the scoreboards ordered and get them moving. I know there's wait time for all of these manufacturers. So if you look, I needed at least, since we're not putting it out for bid, I needed at least 4 or at least 3 quotes. And so we got 4 quotes. The last 2 are 2 different size scoreboards, basically. One's a 10 by 4 and the other one's an 8 by 3. You know, none of them, you know, Daktronics had a 9 by 4. Varsity has the 8 by 4. You know, they're all, none of them were exactly, I guess the Electromesh had an 8 by 4 as well. You can see by the pictures, they're all really similar as far as what the features have. They're all wireless capable. They all come with some type of wireless controlling. Either, you know, I know Daktronics, you can use your cell phone and some of those gadgety stuff. I don't know if it's really worth the additional $2,000, but I mean, maybe it is. I don't know if I really have. I think all of these 4 manufacturers build quality scoreboards that would service fine. They all include the additional sponsorship panel. I believe they're all around 5 years. So
I was curious on any idea
I know our current scoreboards well, not ours anymore. The school scoreboards are Daktronics, the ones we installed, Bill, when we installed those. It's 8 years ago, 9 years ago. I don't know. They've held up well. I mean, I know a lot of your school districts and a lot of folks go with Daktronics. They're very reputable, but they're a little bit more expensive. Varsity, I think, is, I mean, I don't think any of these 4 you're going to go wrong, really. And honestly, over time, I don't know if there'll be much difference on.
My initial thought on the materials would be, non-coated steel, as soon as you scratch that, steel is supposed to go on anymore, whereas aluminum alcohol. So I just, based on that, I would say that product is probably going to be a better quality product than the Varsity, just based on that alone.
I do think the Daktronic had like a raised letter too, versus, so you could see it more like angles, but
it was wired, right? Yeah. The price here is a wired one.
No, it's wireless.
On the Daktronics it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I expected that. I was thinking there was going to be a bigger difference in prices than there are.
Yeah, no, they all, like, I think Daktronic actually just, you get an app on your phone. Yeah.
So Chris, on part of the most research on this, if you have preference or recommendations or thoughts?
No, my thing, that was my main thing, because it looked like when I looked at Daktronics I thought it looked like it was extra to get your wireless side.
I think if you wanted to buy the wireless, what was it on there? Yeah, something like that, something additional. Yeah. Yeah. I think anymore you'd be just better off to go wireless. Right. Yeah, you want to go wireless anymore. That way it's independent.
Stuck at the spot for the wiring terminates for the wireless. I mean, they could be in the press box, they could be at the storage table, they could be in the dugout playing.
Is there any use for like the trumpet horn or anything like that? Is that anything?
You know, Daktronics, part of their quote was you could add like a trumpet horn or some random. Yeah, I mean, extra bells and whistles if you want. Yeah, I don't,
I just saw it on there, and I was like,
you know, baseball and softball, I don't know why you'd ever want to try. I mean, maybe soccer if you were going to. Well, right. So, no, I don't know. That's why I didn't include any of those. You know,
So on the, like, upgrade for the next round, sounds like we're assuming that's a dedicated wireless panel as opposed to just that goes on some of the small, is that accurate?
No, you mean for the controls?
Yeah. You said-
I think that's an app that'll go on your phone. When they will set up a wireless connection on the board itself, and then like some kind of wireless transmitter that your phone will communicate with too. So we'll have to get. I don't know. I'd have to probably reach back out as far as Daktronics might send somebody, but I can't even tell you what that would cost. I know we'll have wire pulled to that, and really it probably won't be too hard to install. We can probably actually get like a local electrician to install. I know we were, when we had the Daktronic ones at the old ball fields, a local electrician did those. So
one question, and I mean, you guys just go on to, I guess, but, what we're doing is if we end up finishing on the two fields, would be a good time to two more scoreboards for the additional field. And so, you know, we've already got 3 committed. Maybe donors for the first 3 fields. What sure is better to go ahead and do a new deal?
with the way the finances are,
Depending on how.
right, I don't know if now's the time. I don't know if it'd be any more advantageous to do it now versus later either, honestly. My thoughts on the other 2 fields, and something we need to look at is, instead of doing permanent fences there, maybe we do temporary fences because if we ever host a softball tournament, we're going to need temporary fences for the 3 fields that we currently have anyway, because they're all going to be too big for a softball tournament. So, so that was my thought, and that way you wouldn't ever have we could leave them. I mean, they build some that are sturdy enough just to leave in the field, but that way we can adjust them as needed. That way, if we wanted to host a fast pitch girls softball tournament, we could have it for that, or even if we wanted to go like a youth baseball, and maybe we could move the 2. I don't know. My thought was just to get temporary for those 2 fields for just the pure adjustment factor of them. We wanted to have a baseball field, we could push them out and have 3 legit sized baseball fields, or youth baseball, we could have 5.
Well, we've got with the 2 practice retention pond right beyond.
Right,
we're
right.
not gonna stretch it out past 230.
Well, 230 or
230.
Well,
it's designed as a 220.
Well, still, I mean, it's 200. So that's what we'd have to reduce down for all of the fields if we wanted to host something like that. I just figure with the temporary, there's still going to be a cost there, but at least they're mobile. And if we want to take them down completely to have something else, even, yeah. So, that's not something we need to decide tonight by any means, but I think for right now, we just focus on the three scoreboards we need to finish out these 3 fields. And
I think we should have additional inquiries for main sponsorship so that it would be interested in sponsoring scoreboard for the practice fields. I don't think we say no.
no, oh well, no. I mean, if we have people wanting to,
There's something
I think that's how we proceed with it, though, is we inquire if we have people wanting to sponsor a field, then that's when we install. We use those funds to install those scoreboards at that time.
Chris, did you know where you're, if you were looking for like what you would see in cost wired versus wireless, is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that that comes with those wireless lines, because I think the market in this space is a wire.
Did you ever find that?
No, it just has a receiver included, I think. Base station. And forward kit.
Is the controller kit included?
Forward kit, charger, case, and included for that phone.
That's what sounds like wireless.
All these quotes are wireless.
Right.
Yeah, they're all wired.
So that was one I didn't spell out, I guess.
My thought would be move forward with electronics as plans.
Yes, I didn't prepare anything to choose the color, but what would you like? Okay, no green. Black and gold. No, it doesn't have to be. I think, I don't know, maybe I can just send out a how about this? How about I send out a just a survey monkey dude for just the board with some color options. If as long as you vote on this specific.
Any discussion? Specify electronics. Any discussion? We got a motion, second to move forward with electronics. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. That concludes new business. I did a motion for miscellaneous myself, here several months ago, new members joined, I was rather pushing, I guess, to say the least, on maybe to include them on the network signs for the park and pool. I'm gonna do the same, that we need to put people there. Closing these out. I don't know if they have any.
I do know what you're talking about, but I don't think anything's been ordered yet. Maybe the pool, but I don't believe so. I don't think any of that's been. They have been ordered?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion that we revise those signs to include our active park structure on the other signs for both the park and the pool. Any discussion? We voted on last time. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Soccer field, do you know if we can get anybody like professional soccer goals over there? Someone like the like for Burrow. There's no stage, like, I know from the practice we've had, like, one of the goals like falling over, like, we kept rolling over. Hit somebody.
We do have stakes. We have stakes for them all. We just, the problem is they get moved all the time. So, and then the stakes get left where they were.
I think that's one of the things like April.
Okay.
And it would be nice to have them like, you gotta move them on.
Right. Yeah, I can.
You got it.
Okay. Yeah, just get me your list and we'll do what we can. I mean, unfortunately, I have Glanny Wake, that's it. So, and he works 29.5 hours a week. Well, right. If it's a weld thing, I'll see if our local welder can maybe he can go there and weld it. Okay.
What's the deal with that one goal?
All those full-size ones were actually donated by the school district, so maybe we reach back out to them and see if they'll repair them for us as well. No? Just kidding, just kidding. Yeah,
I told them.
okay.
I think especially in this, most likely we should be using mistakes every time they get to the.
Right.
Especially, I didn't see it what happened, it said that they go repeatedly got pulled over, that thing on a gift card. That's not going to be.
I just wish, you know, we have multiple people using the fields and everybody just moves them all willy-nilly, and then they leave the stakes out there. We hit them with mowers. We just don't, it's hard to, without having a map of knowing exactly where we're going to leave them. And that's the problem, is no one will leave them where they're set. So we could anchor them down, but I can't guarantee you know, an hour after I leave anchoring them down that it depends on the two newer ones have actual just stakes that drive down through the base, like 4 of them. We can look at that. Or we just, you know, that we've used. Yeah. Or weights. I mean, there's bag weights that a lot of people use, and at least they're you can see those a little easier, and they'll still serve the same purpose. So we'll look into it. We'll make whatever modifications we can make to make it safer. Obviously, we don't want anybody to get hurt. So.
I would make a motion to move from regular session into executive session regarding litigation and personnel.